It will make you a stronger person, whatever it is. You might not feel that right now. There's hope on the other side of that brokenness. There really is hope on the other side. You will get through it. I'm Nick from Georgetown. I moved here like over 30 years ago. I married my best friend in the whole world and been married for almost 35 years. I do a lot of stuff. I'm a photographer, designer. I love to create. I do photography. I founded a nonprofit called We Are Not Broken about 5 years ago, and I used my gift of photography to highlight women's physical scars and emotional scars. So that's been my passion for the last 5 years. Designing clothes with messages on the back, because I think you're your biggest brand, you're your biggest message. So I have this whole vibe where you make an impression when you see somebody, but keep that impression going when you're leaving. They're reading your message on your back. My husband had retired from the military, and he had transitioned. My identity really was always in him. I was a military wife, and I was a police officer's wife, and then he transitioned to go work in the church. So I'm like, what does a church wife look like? And I'm not, that's not my vibe. So I was like, what can I do? What should I do? And so I volunteered on the church photography team for like a whole year. And I'm like, you know, this is really what I want to do. I want to do something like this. I want to capture people in their most vulnerable state, when they're happy, when they're sad. But what does that look like for me, God, right? I'm like really searching for what God wants me to do, because at this point I really want to make a difference and not a paycheck. I had a friend come into town. We were stationed together years ago when my husband was stationed in Alabama. She was getting ready to bury her mom from breast cancer, and she drove across the country. And as she's coming back, she's like, Nick, I'm coming across Texas. And I'm like, oh, come up and stay with us, right? So she came up. Our youngest son had moved out, and I had turned his room into like this makeshift photography studio. So she came up, spent the night, and I'm like, hey, let's go do a photo shoot. I knew that she had tested positive for the BRCA gene, so she'd had the double mastectomy and got rebuilt and all of that because of her mom. And she's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want me to get all dressed up? And I'm like, no, I want to take pictures of your scars. And she's like, okay. So we went downstairs, and I just started taking pictures of her scars, and she had this massive butterfly tattoo on her back. And her scars from her mastectomy went all the way around her back. And the butterfly wings just fell on the scars like it was always supposed to be there. It was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. So I asked her if I could put it out on Facebook that night, and she's like, yeah. So I put it out on Facebook, and I put a call out. I'm like, hey, to any woman out there that has a scar or stretch marks or feels less than because you don't look what society thinks you should look like, and you've been through a trauma, I want to take your picture and I want to do it for free. Didn't think nothing else of it. Went to bed that night, got up, said our goodbyes, opened my email. Inbox was full, like literally full of women reaching out. And it was that moment I heard God say, this is what I want you to do, and I want you to call it We Are Not Broken. I've taken over 500 stories. I've done every single scar you could possibly think of. I've published a book, a coffee table book of scars. For me, it's about getting the message out there that your scar is not something that you need to hide. Really, you should turn your trauma into your biggest triumph, your pain into your purpose. People should look at scars like, not like hate, what's wrong with her, but oh my God, look at her scar. What strength it had to take to get through that and to overcome that. So I want people to look at scars like a thing of beauty and strength. The amount of encounters where after they're edited and they get their pictures and we put it together in a storyboard and it goes out, like they'll look at themselves and be like, is that me? That's me? I'm like, yeah, that's you. That's how the world sees you, because 9 times out of 10, that's not how the person sees themselves. They're so bogged down with their trauma or just trying to hide it, you know? They don't walk out of here the same as they walked in. They just don't, because they get to talk about something that people really or they think people don't want to hear about. So it's been really transformative. I will say that. I had a little girl that came in here and she had brain cancer. Head cut open, shaved off all of her hair, you know, went through chemo, went through radiation, but then has to go back to school and be bullied because she's bald, right? And you think about that, I'm like, what other child do you know has gone through chemo, radiation, beat cancer, and still goes back to school and is bullied? That's the narrative that I'm trying to change. She should be like, oh my God, she's the strongest person in the school. Like she needs to be like put up on this big pedestal. But I remember asking her what she wanted to be when she grew up. She said, a supermodel. And I'm like, well, you're gonna be a supermodel today. Look at all these cameras, and you're gonna be in a book one day. And this is before I published the book. She was so excited about it that she left and she actually wrote a little book, put together, stapled it together, and brought it back about the time she was a supermodel here. You know, it's just like, there's so many stories like that.
Hey everybody, it's Trudy Jacobson. Thank you for watching Great American Women, and thank you to the great ladies who have participated in this series. Now I'll let you get back to the show.
So I've done a lot of breast cancer stories, you know, mastectomies. And even though my mom had breast cancer, I lost my sister from breast cancer, it didn't affect me until I had breast cancer. And I went through that. So, and that's difficult because it hasn't been that long. When I had my photo shoot done, I actually did two. So it was very important for me to track my journey through cancer, because how could I ask women to come in and share their trauma and I wasn't willing to do it. So from day one, even before I knew I had cancer, I started sharing. I found a lump. No idea it was going to turn into cancer. But I did two photo shoots. So literally, I think it was 2 weeks, maybe after I had surgery, I came in and I did a self-photography session with all of my drains still coming out of me. I had 4 drains and I'm like, I need people to see this is what it looks like. On my second one I did, I was so powerful. I was like, it was great. I felt great because I'd already accepted scars. Scars never bothered me. So it was very empowering. The first one I think was more empowering because I had drains coming out of my body. Words of wisdom and guidance for somebody who's going through trauma, in the midst of it, you will get through it. You will come out the other side if you just take one step at a time, take one day at a time. It will make you a stronger person, whatever it is. You might not feel that right now. There's hope on the other side of that brokenness. There really is hope on the other side. And there's nothing I could do without God, absolutely nothing. Like I give him all the glory for everything that I do. I mean, he made me the person I am with all my quirks and craziness and, you know, creativity. So he is the reason I am who I am, and that's how I live my day. That's how I live my life. I am Nick, and I'm a great American woman.
Thank you for watching Great American Women. If you would like to be considered for a Great American Women episode, drop us a message and let us know. We can't wait to hear your story.